Buzz TV. It's a fun day for us. It's a Webiview day. We got a hold of a friend of ours. Jeff's here from Q5. Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Doing great, my friend. How are you?
Oh, life's good. Now, if we're correct, you guys are based out of the Washington area, correct? Washington State?
We are. We're in Seattle area, yep.
You know, now this is really, really fun because a friend of ours turned us on to the band. We got actually the new CD, which we love, entitled The New World Order. And right from the get-go, it's like I hear these influences of bands I've loved for years. Like I've heard a Crocus influence real quick. Then I hear something that reminds me of maybe a Saxon thing and some Scorpion stuff. But it's really, for me, it's just a good rock and roll album from top to bottom. And I guess, you know, my favorite track right now, Turn Up the Night. And I really love that thing. You know, so I've been listening to it a lot. So let me ask, is the band influenced by bands like that, or is it just something I was lucky enough to go, you know, it sounds a little like this?
No, those are all good guesses. We have tons and tons and tons of influences. I mean, there's all of those mentioned, certainly. You know, we've heard AC/DC a million times. There's some of that. You know, obviously some Led Zeppelin, you know, older stuff like that. Even some newer stuff. I mean, I'm a huge Devin Townsend fan. I mean, there's, you know, he's so varied. It's hard to pick one of his albums, but you know what I mean. There's all kinds of influences all over the place. But certainly those are good ones for anybody who doesn't know Q5. Those would be great ones to tell them about. Maybe some Scorpions,
Exactly.
some Shaker stuff. And Rick Pierce is a huge Michael Shaker fan, so that's definitely an influence.
You know, I could tell, you know, with some of those guitar licks. Now, let's talk about Q5 a little bit. How long's the band been around?
Q5 originally was formed in 1983, and it was our vocalist, Jonathan Kay, and a gentleman that everybody that knows guitars will know. His name, Floyd Rose. He's the inventor of the locking tremolo system for guitars. The two of them started the band, brought in three guys from another Seattle band called TKO.
Okay.
If you haven't heard them, you should check them out too. They're really brilliant. Rick Pierce, Evan Sheely, and their original drummer, Gary Thompson, all came from the band TKO. And then they signed to a local label called Albatross Records, put out Steal the Light, which was their first album. That got international acclaim immediately, and they signed a deal to Polygram Records for their second album, which was entitled When the Mirror Cracks. I don't know how much of the history you want to know. I could be here for about 6 hours. But
Well, no, we really would like to know that because, you know, for me, all these names I know, you know, so it's a history that I know, but there's some people that really don't and need to know this stuff because they're going to think, well, Q5, here's something that you've thrown out there, and if they don't know, they need to know this band's been around and there's quality players that are in this band. It's not something that just popped up last Thursday.
Right. This is the second record was different, quite a bit different from the first record. First record was more of a guitar-oriented, you know, hard rock, AC/DC meets Scorpions, all of that sort of thing. The second record, the label kind of sent them in a little bit different direction, added a lot of synthesizers, you know, a whole different sound. A great record, which is decidedly very different. Then just shortly after that, the band dissolved. The vocalist, obviously Floyd Rose, the guitar player, went off and he's done very well for himself with his guitar tremolo stuff. And Gary Thompson has gone off and become very great at video editing. He has his own company with that as well. But Jonathan and Rick went off to form another project called Nightshade. And I met Rick in a mall. I walked straight up to him knowing that Q5 had broken up. And I walk up to him and I said, "Hey, you're Rick Pierce from Q5," and he said, "Yeah," and I said, "Oh, good, because I'm your new drummer." And I'm sure he thought I was nuts. I'm sure he must have thought I was bonkers, but he graciously granted me an audition. So we started this new project called Nightshade. So it was the three of us and a bass player named Tony McNally, and we finished the first album for Nightshade for a label in Europe called Music for Nations. I had to leave Nightshade about a year and a half later. We had some family problems, so I had to leave. They brought in another drummer. I'm trying to kind of give you the short story of the history. They brought in another drummer named Frankie Rongo, who is a great, great drummer, great guy. He stayed with them for 2 more albums. Then in 2009, they were invited to play at the Headbangers Open Air Festival in Hamburg. And the promoter, who also owns the record label they were on for the last 2 records, knew that Evan Sheely had gotten into Nightshade. So there were 3 original members of Q5, and he said, well, why don't you, since you're coming as Nightshade already for this festival, why don't you also do a set as Q5? So they thought, well, why not? Okay, let's give it a shot. So they did, and the fans went crazy. They saw that Steal the Light had gained such ground as this sort of cult classic album, and so they came back and they were kind of, well, what do we do now? Do we continue as Nightshade or do we go on as Q5? A few years later, they were invited again to play at Sweden Rock, which is this gigantic festival. If you don't know about it, it's monstrous over in Sweden.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so when they played there, they brought in a second guitar player. They brought in Rick Van Zandt, who's currently with Metal Church, and that again, the response was so overwhelming that they just made the decision that Q5 had to come back. So when they came back to the States, obviously Rick Van Zandt had to go back to Metal Church. Frankie Rongo is a super successful physical trainer, so he had to go off and go back to his business. Frankie then called me and said, what would you think about taking over the chair and being the permanent drummer for what's going to be Q5? And I said, yep, done. See it with you. And then we temporarily brought in Fifth Angel guitar player Kendall Bechtel. And we did a few shows with him as just sort of a test run to see how things went. We played in Athens, Greece, and we played in Cyprus, and that was just ridiculously huge. The fans were singing louder than we were playing, honestly. So we came back. Kendall decided it wasn't really for him. He kind of wanted to do his own music. So we did the search for a guitar player. And long story short, or longer story short, we found Dennis Turner, who was a brilliant virtuoso on guitar and also an incredible guy. So we knew immediately that was it. So then we started writing, and I'll go really quickly here, but we got an email from an author in Italy who said, hey, I've got this friend of mine who's got a record label, and you should talk to him. And, that's a red flag usually. You're talking to Bubba in his grandma's basement, We've got a record label, and we'll make you big stars. But he said, why not? Just send us a message. Sure, that's no problem. We'll talk to him. And it turned out to be Frontiers Music out of Italy, which is probably the biggest label that we could get on in our genre, for sure. It's a ridiculously amazing label. And again, long story short, we sent them some demos, and they signed us 2 days later. And here we are about a year later, and New World Order. There it is.
And the thing's a great album, as we were talking about, top to bottom. This thing just really just hits you in the face and keeps going. Here's my biggest question now. With such a huge fan base coming out of Europe, Q5 playing any dates around America?
Well, that certainly is the goal. It's tough to tour in America,
Exactly.
Unless you're Justin Bieber. And even then, anyway. So it's tough for metal bands. I mean, there's bands that are incredibly huge in Europe, like Primal Fear, for instance. They played the stadiums over in Europe. They come here, and it's hard for them to pack in a club. Yeah. Not because they're brilliant. They're an incredible band, but the fans just aren't coming out. I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but would love to be anywhere. We are so hungry to play.
You're right. It's because we spoke with the guys and actually had them on the show a little while back when they were coming through America, and we had them in a club, and the club was nicely packed. But you're right. It should have been so much fuller. The thing should have been sold out. I think the night after us, they were at the Whiskey in Hollywood, packed, but again, nothing that it should have been. And I've been saying it too. It's just so much weirder how this genre and style of music is so huge in Europe, and how I don't know what happened here in America. It seems like the kids really forgot about this stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of saturation in the hip hop stuff and the pop stuff, and metal just kind of got buried a little bit.
It did.
Well, I'm just telling fans, of all metal music, get out and support these people because they're working hard, and it's really hard to keep the engines going without your support.
Exactly. Now let's get on some good news and good stuff.
For sure.
New World Order. When's it going to be available for the mass public to get?
It is all out right now. It came out July 8th.
And that's,
So
would that be both America and Europe? Do you have a single release time, or is it staggered?
it's all out now.
Nice.
The single came out a month ago. There's 4 singles that came out about every 2 weeks, about a month ago. The CD and the digital copies on iTunes and Amazon and Google Play are all available now. They all came out July 8th. The CDs are also available anywhere you buy music. Please go out and support your local music stores too. And also the vinyl version of it, which is a double vinyl with a gatefold for all you vinyl collectors, that comes out in October. So if you follow any of our social media, sorry about my hand there, I got funky trying to hold my phone up here. But if you get onto our Facebook, which is Q5 Official, is our official Facebook page. We'll have news and all that information there. We also have Twitter. I hope you don't mind me flashing this here. The Twitter is Q5_official, and our Instagram is Q5 Rocks. So anybody can get on any of those. And of course, we'll do all the news as soon as the vinyl becomes available. Should be October.
Perfect. Now, if you're watching this on the iPhone or Android app, get over to the BuzzTV website. Right below this, right down here, we're going to have links for all that, because those would have been questions I would have asked, so we've already covered that. So click that.
I'm kind of big now.
No, that's a great thing, because normally I would have to ask all that. It's so nice that we got it there, because now they know where to get the album, where to get the music, where to keep in touch with the band, all sorts of different ways. And, the world's all about social media. Now, the other guys aren't here, but is Q5 lucky enough, for anyone in the band lucky enough right now to have an endorsement or any kind of a sponsorship deal we want to throw back and give some love to?
Oh, I've got a number of them, so that's amazing that you would do that. This is so incredibly great that you would offer that opportunity, because so many journalists just don't want that. It's a commercial advertisement or whatever. But,
well, I'm also a musician, my friend, so one, I know how hard it is to get, and two, once you get it, we need to show them some love and the appreciation, because these companies do a great deal for us.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with mine. I have a few that are just amazing companies. Soul Tone Cymbals out of Encino, California, absolutely brilliant. Risen Drums is a great one for me as well. Silver Fox Drumsticks, the best sticks in the business, not just because I play them, but because they're ridiculously incredible. Aquarian Drumheads and Accessories, also amazing, incredible, fantastic. Audix Microphones supports Q5.
Nice.
Gotta check them out. Our bass player, Evan Sheely, he plays Tobias basses, and they've been super supportive for him. Also, he plays Ashdown bass gear. Let's see, what else do we have? Goodness, what else does Evan have? I forgot to do the Evan homework.
It's hard when everybody gets stuff, so no one's going to fault you for not knowing everyone's gear. I mean, knowing yours is tough enough.
People don't understand how much these companies really support these bands. It's not just a name that's flashing up on our, our liner notes. These companies are really helping us by, supplying us with the gear that we want and that we need for these shows. So it's super important.
I love that, and we're at NAMM every year, so you mentioned a few names that we've spoken with and talked to these guys, especially your Sticks company. We do love those guys over there. They are really great, and how they support the artists. Now, let me ask you a question. Q5, what's the next couple dates you're playing? Let's try to pump that if we have them locked in.
We're working very hard on a schedule at this point. We have 2 that are confirmed. One that is next week. We're playing in Hamburg at the Headbangers Open Air Festival, playing with Armored Saint and Ostrogoth and tons of cool bands. The next one that we have confirmed, although we'll have a bunch more this year, but the next one we have confirmed is next April. We're playing in Lauda Königshofen, Germany at the Keep It True Festival, which for you metal fanatics, that's a massive festival over there, very popular.
Now the best thing for us is we're going to have this thing ripped out. We normally air our Webiviews Wednesday, so we'll jump this to the top of the list. I don't think a couple of friends will get mad, so we'll air this tomorrow, and at least we have a week to push this show for you.
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, how does it work when you guys have to do that? You guys are going to get on a plane, fly halfway around the world. What do you leave? Is it a couple days early? Do you push it almost right to the limit? With that jet lag and stuff. How's that work when you have the time?
Well, we play on Friday, and the promoters have been very gracious to give us, a little bit of time before and a little bit of time after to get used to the time differences and all that. They're super supportive. So we got a couple days before that we can relax and watch some of the other bands and see how the festival goes and absorb some of that. And then a couple days after just to kind of hang out and see the sights and get as much schnitzel and beer in as we can.
There you go, and maybe send a box home.
Sure.
The album itself, New World Order. When it came to writing this thing, how did that go? Was this somewhat a quick and easy process, or was it something that was more long and drawn out?
I've been in so many other bands before that I don't think that I could call it long and drawn out ever, because I've seen long and drawn out. But in this case, everybody in this band is very seasoned. We've been around for a long time. So we all kind of knew a process to come in. You always have to get into a rhythm together, but we knew a process to at least start bringing in pieces, and it all just kind of came together naturally. And everybody contributed. I mean, obviously Rick Pierce is the riff master. He came in probably with the bulk of the music, either in pieces or in large pieces. But then the rest of us, I mean, everybody contributed. Everybody moved things around. Everybody said, well, what if we try this? What if we move this? And it really only took us, under a year. I'll say that.
That's not a bad thing, because, a lot of times you could get lost, especially when it comes down to mastering and getting that final process. You could truly become lost. So a year is not a long time. And the best thing is when you have support from your label and you're able to take that time to make sure you get the quality and what you want versus having to settle on, I have to settle on the bass line, or maybe track 12 isn't as strong as I'd liked it to be because the clock was at 11:30. So it was really nice that you guys got that time. And again, you're picking up that Q5 New World Order album. You're going to hear it right from top to bottom for me. The first couple notes just grabbed my balls, and it brought me, right back home to things I've always loved, and all the way through. So again, you guys got to pick that up for me. I found one of my favorite tracks, but everybody has their own taste, and they're going to get their own. Now, here's probably the most important question we could actually ask in any interview. What might we have left out about Q5 that they need to know?
That this is not a one-off thing. This is not just I think it's not a cash grab. There's no money in this business anymore. We're back. Q5 is back. Q5 is a band. And this is not the only album we're going to do. There's more in the future. There's touring in the future. We are a real band. And some fans will ask about Floyd Rose or like Gary Thompson and how they feel about the band moving forward. And I can tell you, having met with both of them personally, that they are both very happy that we are moving forward and support us all the way.
Ah, that's a great thing. Now, I'm going to wrap this up with a little thing we do. It's called Roll the Bones. Generally, we do this live. It's a little bit of fun, but we found that doing it this way is not so bad either. I have a 30-sided dice that matches up with 30 pre-selected questions, but since you're not here and you can't roll the dice, I'm going to be nice. Pick a number between 1 and 30. We will not use 20 today, and I'll explain why in a little bit.
Let's go with 21.
21. 21 is, how many hotel rooms have you trashed in the last tour or travel period with Q5? I'm sorry. I forgot to mention, I think 4 or 5 of these questions deal with music.
Okay, good. Well, I'm sorry for all you metal fans that feel that I should be setting things on fire, but I'm usually very respectful, and I try to keep things as clean as possible, so I don't. I haven't trashed hotel rooms. That's
not a bad thing. Now, I'm going to just throw a number out because I honestly don't know these numbers. I'll go with 27.
Fair enough.
27 is, what did I have for breakfast today?
I didn't.
I had a shredded beef and cheese burrito, so that was my question.
Oh, you're speaking my language, man.
Come on, we live on the road. I eat like I'm on the road all the time. Now, the reason we didn't go with number 20 is 20 is probably my favorite question. The question itself is blow. And as the person gets the puzzled look on their face, I pull out a pocket breathalyzer, and we find out how much you had to drink before the interview, either before or after the show, and that's always a fun thing when the number gets really high. But we won't be doing that today. So, oh, believe me.
I'll just say 0. How about that?
Well, no, I had one. I guess the best thing, I was interviewing a band. We'll leave it at that. If you follow the show, you know just from talking to the guy. The whole interview he's slurring, and mind you, this is before the set. And I'm talking to him and the guitar player, and the whole time in my head, I'm waiting for the game. And then when it starts, I'm just going, oh, please, please. And he rolls it, and he hits a 20. And my heart skips 2 beats. And I pull this out, and his guitar player goes, is that what I think it is? And I go, yes. He's on the ground in hysterics. This guy blows a 0.23. I mean, he's that hammered, and he still has to go on and play. So we do the interview, and everything's all good. And a couple days later, they get a hold of me and say, hey, Brad, could you edit out that part of the game? And I go, yeah, I'm a nice guy, and I do. But I'm thinking to myself, and they go, because his wife doesn't know he thinks he stopped drinking. And I'm like, okay, but there's no way he's coming home not smelling of anything. It was just one of those, I could cut it out, but if you look at this, he's 4 sheets to the wind, staggered. But it was a fun night anyway.
The wife, man, don't lie to the wife.
Yeah, no, happy wife, happy life.
All right.
Yeah, I know that one. Well, Jeff, I know you're a busy guy. You have a bunch of stuff to do. It's a fun press day, so I'm going to run. Again, we're going to have this thing up Wednesday. You know that new show is going to be out very, very soon. So you guys, if you're in Germany, definitely check that out. If not, click the links down here. The Q5 album's out right now. You can get it at all your latest places. So, Amazon, iTunes. Get right there to their Facebook. You know everything. New World Order. This thing's great from top to bottom. Jeff, it was a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully we'll be lucky enough to catch you guys here in the States one day or soon. And since we like to travel, if it's not here in Vegas, we have no problem coming to you. But say hi to the guys. Let them all know we love this stuff, and we can't wait to see you.
Done and done. We're so grateful for your support, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Again, when you hear the music, how could you not support something that's that good? So for myself, for Jeff, for Q5 and Buzz TV, we're out of here, guys. See ya.
See you.